All right, you guys, it's Friday and it's time for another movie retrospective. This is, again, a little bit of a deep cut, I feel like.
Yeah, underappreciated this one.
Yeah, we've done some Stuart Gordon movies before, obviously. We did Reanimator, we did Dagon.
Yeah.
This is one that doesn't really get a lot of love. I guess it's got kind of a little bit of a cult following now, but it's not one of his better known ones. It actually came out a bit later. It was direct to DVD. It's kind of from a low rent sort of production company.
Yeah. Doesn't matter though. It's still Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, it's like, but however, it's much better than its pedigree would suggest.
Yeah.
And actually, we saw it on Shudder. It's on Shudder right now, and I was like, oh, I forgot all about this movie, and people have been recommending it to me, so I actually went and watched it. Now, the weird thing was that I didn't look at what year it came out until after we watched it, because I was thinking that it came out like either a little bit before or a little bit after, like From Beyond. So I was thinking it came out like in the mid 80s. No, it came out in 1995.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't really know that. It's not because it's crappy looking. It's just because
Jeffrey Combs, he looked exactly the same age.
yeah, he didn't look any older. So
Right.
I was like, so I guess that was like what I was thinking in my head, that it's like because he didn't look any older, he looked very young still.
And it's real weird to think just a couple years later, like 2 years later, he did Frighteners.
Yeah.
And Frighteners is on a totally different level.
The thing about this movie,
Frighteners.
I did too.
Yeah.
It's like, and we did a review of that, didn't we? A while back. That was one of the first ones I did, I think.
That's another underappreciated one.
This movie, like I said, directed by Stuart Gordon, written by Dennis Paoli, the screenwriter who also wrote Reanimator and From Beyond. This is actually sort of based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. It's based on the one called The Outsider, which is actually one of his best regarded short stories. But really the only element in the movie that, is kind of comes from the story is the thing about somebody, I mean, it's written in the first person. So he's writing about somebody that's like been in this castle dungeon thing. He doesn't even know it's a dungeon, but he's been in this castle his whole life. He's never spoken. He's never heard anybody speak. He's never seen another human being and all this other kind of stuff. And then he comes out at the end and he's like a monster, or other people perceive him as a monster. So that's sort of idea of this one, but it's kind of not exactly the same. So it's a very loose adaptation.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, too, about this one is that Stuart Gordon is kind of known for doing, like I said, Reanimator and stuff, like kind of not horror comedies, sort of, or like
but
dark
over-the-top
comedy.
stuff. The over-the-top stuff, yeah.
So this one is oddly
it's like a classic.
serious.
Yeah.
This is actually a pretty serious movie, not really any humor in it.
No.
Jeffrey Combs, I think this is the only time I've ever seen him play a normal person.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like a normal character. This one kind of had like a Frankenstein feel, Dracula, more like the
Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. It was like a classic horror movie.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a Quasimodo type thing.
Yeah, this one's pretty rare. I don't think we should spoil all the elements.
Yeah,
to it,
we won't.
It's a good one to see if you hadn't seen it, and I didn't even know the movie existed until recently.
Yeah,
I was off in that. Well, in 95, 96, I was in Boston partying it up. I really didn't know what Jeffrey Combs was doing at that time. It wasn't until about a year later, that I saw, a couple years later, that I saw Frighteners.
Yeah.
And Frighteners is really good too, people. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch our Frighteners review. And even if you saw Frighteners and didn't like it, there's a couple different cuts of that movie. And the cut that's on the Blu-ray is fantastic. I like it. It's longer, I think, than the normal VHS
I liked it better
cut.
the second time I saw it. But this one is like I said, every other movie I've seen Jeffrey Combs in, he plays like a very mannered character, like a weirdo. In this one, he plays like a regular dude, and he's astoundingly good at it.
Yeah.
Particularly, he's very good at the couple scenes where like he goes to the bar to pick up the prostitute and he gets shit-faced.
Yeah.
And he plays a really good drunk.
Yeah.
I also really liked Barbara Crampton is in this too, you guys. She doesn't get naked, I'm sorry. Like she did in the other ones.
Yeah.
But so they play husband and wife, and they're kind of estranged, which you find out the reason like later on in the movie. But so they're just kind of like at each other's throats all the time, and it is like scarily realistic. Like, they play very well off each other. You can really believe these two are a married couple, and he like fucked up big time, and she can't forgive him, and they're just like screaming at each other, and like this whole coldness and everything. So it's like a really, really good performance the two of them give. Like, they work really well together. And, so like I said, they've been in a lot of Stuart Gordon movies, with each other.
Yeah. It's weird that this movie is related to From Beyond and Dagon and Reanimator, because the tone is totally different. Even the same actors and everything, but the tone is just like classic horror.
It's like a gothic,
like a classic gothic horror.
It's kind of Italian. I mean, it's shot in Italy. So it looks like it almost shot like a giallo type movie, and it has some giallo type elements in it.
Yeah.
Here's the genesis of it is very funny because so the story goes, Stuart Gordon walks into the office of Charles Band, who is the producer for Full Moon Pictures, which, if you didn't know, did your favorite Trancers.
Yeah.
Also did, like, the Puppet Master movies.
My favorite Trancers? No. Upon seeing Trancers with modern eyes, Trancers 1 was a piece of shit.
Well, I was being facetious.
Yeah, it was a piece. I can't believe I bought that on Blu-ray.
That's what I know. Well, it was you had like rose-colored memories.
Yeah,
of it. It's really not
that
good.
movie.
It's really not. But yeah, so this is the same production company. It's a very cheap jack type production company. They're kind of known for that. So you wouldn't think so. Apparently, Stuart Gordon walks into Charles Band's office, and Charles Band has a poster in his office that says "Castle Freak" on it. And it has, like, this monster that's being whipped by a woman. And Stuart's like, what's that? And he's like, oh, I don't know. It's just a poster. It's not a movie or anything. It's just, what? You want to use it? Stuart's like, yeah, can I use that concept? They're like, yeah, as long as it has a castle and a freak in it, go to town. So, there was a poster for a non-existent movie. And Stuart Gordon liked the idea of it. So he sort of tied it in with the whole H.P. Lovecraft thing. Basically, what happened... And Charles Band, I guess, making... knockoff DVD horror movies, like, I think he made Ghoulies and stuff like that too, like ones with puppets those. And stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he made those. I guess that pays pretty well because the castle in Italy where this was shot, that's his.
Wow.
A lot of his movies were shot there because he's like, shit, if I had a castle, I would film all my movies there also.
Yeah, the premise of this one is a guy, I think he inherited the castle, right?
Yeah, from like from a relative he didn't know. It was an aunt or
moves his family into there, and he actually plans on liquidating everything out of the estate.
Yeah, they're just living there until they sell it.
And they already has a staff, has a lady that takes care of it, and it's a creepy old castle. And turns out there's a monster in the castle.
Yeah, well,
and then they think it's a monster, and then they figure it out. Don't want to spoil too much about it.
Yeah,
if you haven't seen it, this is kind of a rare movie, but you can watch it for free on Shudder. It's good though.
It's strange because, like I said, this has a very serious tone. Like,
the tone's very different than the other ones.
Nothing funny in it. It's just, it's this broken family that is, they're trying to get their shit back together. He's trying to get his shit back together. Like I said, he's a recovering alcoholic. And, and he fucked up big time back in the past. His wife can't forgive him, blah, blah, blah. So he inherits this castle from this aunt who happened to be a duchess. She croaks, leaves him the castle because he's her only living relative. So they move in there. They're not going to stay there, but they're just like living there until, they can sell it or liquidate it or whatever. And then they later come to discover that he's not exactly a monster. He's like a deformed guy. He's like Quasimodo type thing. And he's been like chained down in the basement. Like the Duchess kept him down there.
Yeah, his whole life. So it's weird. It's weird.
And
she did bad things to him while I was down there. You find out why, and it's just,
Yeah, he has various appendages removed and some other stuff. And, she had some issues, this Duchess. And why she kept him down there and who he is and stuff like that. But I feel like one thing about this movie cost $500,000 to make.
Yeah, that's
nothing. What I heard. Yeah, it's like nothing. So, like I said, they had the location because Charles Band's like, hey, just film it in my Italian castle like you do. So they filmed it there, and that goes a long way toward making it not look cheap. You know what I mean?
The makeup's pretty good.
The titular castle freak.
Yeah, he looks pretty good.
He looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And if you're into that, like I said, this is a Stuart Gordon movie, so there's going to be titties, and there's going to be gore.
Yeah.
Like I said, Barbara Crampton doesn't get naked, but a couple other people do. And you do get to see the castle freak bite someone's tit off.
Yeah.
Which, nice.
Yeah.
There's some disturbing stuff in this.
Oh, yeah. And what's weird about the movie, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's good and bad, and I guess you could say in a certain way, is that it doesn't really look like a 90s movie at all. It looks like an 80s movie. That's what I mean.
I didn't think it was.
It's shot like a high-quality 80s movie.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that Frighteners is 2 years later, because it looks like it's 20, 30 years apart in terms of the way Frighteners is filmed, the way it's shot.
Well, yeah.
It's just... But, it's good. It has its own atmosphere.
I read somewhere that, and like I said, when we first watched this, I didn't know what year it came out, and I was like shocked when I found out that it came out in 1995, for Christ's sake. I was like, no, I was thinking it was like 83, 84, something like that.
That's kind of what it looks like.
But I saw somebody say, I was reading a review of it earlier, and they said something to the effect of, this looks like a remake that was done in the 80s of like an old movie, like from the 50s or 60s, because it's structured very much like you said, like Frankenstein or Phantom of the Opera, or what's the one with Quasimodo in it? Why can't I remember the name of it? Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback. Yeah.
I can't believe I can remember that. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's like, so it's very much in that sort of spirit.
You can tell that's exactly the kind of movie they're making.
Right. Yeah. So it's like the Lovecraft connection is really not there. No. I mean, this Lovecraft story, like I said, The Outsider, which was written in the 20s, 1926, I think it was his most Edgar Allan Poe-esque story, which he actually said at the time. It is very Poe-like. Yeah. So you get that kind of thing. This is not like the Cthulhu mythos. No. Crazy out there type shit with tentacles and everything. This is very much in the Gothic tradition, much more, like I said, like an Edgar Allan Poe story, really, than a Lovecraft story. But, and like I said, it was just so weird to me to see.
Yeah, you're right. It has there's an element of like the fall of the House of Usher type of feel to it.
It's that kind of shit. Yeah. And like, Cask of Amontillado. It's very much like, it gave me the same kind of vibe as like Roger Corman's Edgar Allan Poe adaptations, except not as colorful as that. It's almost kind of like a Gothic melodrama, like with a monster in it. Yeah. Because a lot of the shit with gore. With a lot of gore. Yeah. And some disturbing
weird
like
sexual
rape
stuff.
Scenes and it's kind of upsetting, So if I'm just saying if you don't like seeing that.
How about today's standards in a big deal?
It's not a huge deal, but like if you've seen like a Serbian film or like what's that other like Irreversible or Inside or whatever. If you've seen
one that
those,
really messed me up, we got to do this one. Frankenstein's Army. That kind of messed me up even as an adult. I was like, man, it was weird. The stuff that Frankenstein was making for the Russians, I guess. Yeah. The Russians and the Nazis. I guess he was making stuff for both of them. Yeah. It's hard to tell.
But, the thing about it, it's like, it's not, you can just watch it, like I said, as pretty much just like a Gothic straight-ahead monster movie. But there's also kind of some deeper shit in there about, he draws kind of like a parallel between Jeffrey Combs' character, whose name is John Riley, in case I didn't mention that, and his kind of crumbling relationship with his family and like his fuck ups and everything like that, and they kind of tie it in with the story of like the monster and how he came to be down there and shit like that. So there's kind of there's like a deeper element there if you want to explore that. You don't have to, like I said, it's just kind of a gory monster movie too. A little bit of a slow burn at the beginning, but like I said,
that's like the classics though. They did that too,
right? But it was very good at like establishing character, and like I said, the interesting thing too is that other than the family's daughter, whose name is Rebecca, she's a blind girl. The husband and wife at the center, whose name are John and Susan. It's Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs. It's a lot about the two of them and. It's interesting because Jeffrey Combs' character is kind of a shit. I mean, he's not like he's not heroic. No. He's not. So he's almost like an anti-hero type of way. And I mean, Barbara Crampton's character, because at first you don't know like why she's acting the way she's like. Why is she being such a bitch to him? Holy crap! But then later you find out and it's like understandable. But so this whole time it's like these two unpleasant, and they're just like at each other's throats all the time, and you're not entirely sure why at first. So. But like I said, so a lot of the characters are not super likable. They're relatable,
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily likable until you learn more about them, like, later on,
Now that
which
you
I think
bring
is
that-
kind of good.
Now that you bring that up about the main character not being really not really being a good guy per se, kind of being a shit, makes me think we got to do Tusk.
That was so
Tusk,
weird.
yeah. Man.
That was so weird.
About a man turns another man into a walrus.
Well, see, I'm pretty sure that's like a Kevin Smith movie.
Yeah.
And he always makes those weird ass, like he started out making pretty normal ones, like back in the day, like Chasing Amy and stuff. Like, if this is the same, because I'm pretty sure I didn't look it up. So
that was a weird ass movie.
Yeah, but he made like yoga hosers and stuff.
I was
like,
thinking about that for like a whole day afterwards. I'm like, man, well, I was trying to figure out what he meant by all that. I think I got it figured out. We need to do an analysis.
I need if that is indeed if he wrote the script of that, I need some of that weed that he's got because I must see some good.
No,
shit.
I don't want that weed. No.
It would help me with my writing.
No,
it's probably give me horrible nightmares and
I
stuff.
don't want anything to do with that.
He doesn't want that weed. It's on Netflix. It's like actually Shauna and Eric, who were on our Halloween show, they recommended it, which is why I watched it that night. But it's batshit insane.
Yeah, no, I don't know. We're talking about Tusk, not this one. This one's it's like a classic horror movie with some gore and stuff. And Tusk is just twisted. What we gotta do? I'm gonna do an analysis of Tusk.
I guess it's a horror movie.
I gotta see it a couple more times. I'll figure it out all angles of it. Yeah, I'll try to figure it. There's some kind of a having to do with the tears at the end. Are we talking about the tears of a man or tears of a walrus? There's some kind of symbolism involved. Yeah, something having to do with man as a walrus. But he's tripping too, But I might be able to read something into it.
Maybe that's what he was. Maybe he was getting high and listening to "I Am the Walrus" by the Beatles, and then he just was like,
"Yeah, I don't know,
Eureka, weird. That's a movie."
Yeah.
And it is. Well, see, when we started watching it, like all I knew was the title. I didn't know who directed it. I didn't know what it was about or nothing. And I'm watching it. I'm going, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, I didn't like that movie, but I have to know more about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're just like
shit was nasty. We got to get off this subject.
I know, but just for future reference if you want to do it. But yeah, so like I said, this is one that kind of a little bit under the radar of people. Obviously because Stuart Gordon made Reanimator and From Beyond. Those are pretty much the two that everybody talks about because those are classics. So this one gets a little bit, sort of pushed under. But I think that if you like a lot of the gothic elements, I mean, if you like Jeffrey Combs, like I said, and want to see him play a completely straight, normal person role, not a likable person, really, not really until the end, because he has, with the redemption arc and everything like that. But, I was like amazed. I'm watching him like, man, that dude can act his fucking ass off.
I like Jeffrey, and I like that team that made those movies from Beyond and all that. And I didn't know about this one, so it was good to see this one. It was a set.
Yeah.
It's in there. It is a different tone.
It is very different.
It's a different movie, but if you're into horror, you know exactly what it's getting at. It's getting at Dracula, Frankenstein, Fall of the House of Usher, Cast of Montiago. It's a Poe. It's a classic.
With a weird, gory, like
S&M kind of
undertone.
A twist to it. Right.
Well, not even an undertone. It's like a big overtone.
Yeah.
Because that's like, there's a lot of sex in this, like I said, from, Jeffrey Combs, that whole thing. There's his whole thing with like his wife won't have sex with him and stuff, and then there's the whole thing with there's a prostitute, and then there's like the thing with the monster wanting to rape women because he's never had,
and then the monster trying to rape the little daughter,
right? And all
kinds of stuff.
So it's all kind of fucked up shit in it. There's some fucked up family dynamics, some weird Freudian or Jungian. It's not Jungian, I guess it's more Freudian, but
it's worth seeing.
There's a lot of weird shit going on there. So if you like Stuart Gordon's other stuff and you haven't seen it, because like I said, I only just recently saw this. I'd heard of it, I just never got around to it. But it's it's a different thing than his other ones, his more famous ones.
Yeah, I can see why it was kind of forgotten, but it is good.
It's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly, he made a bunch more. Like he made one called Dolls, which also has Jeffrey Combs in it, which I don't think I've ever seen.
We got to see that one too.
If I did, I forgot about it.
We'll see that one too.
But he's made several other ones. But of the other ones that I've seen, other than the two big ones, I actually really, really liked this a lot. It's creepy. It's kind of disturbing. The castle set is amazing. So check it out. Like I said, if you have a Shudder, it's on there at the moment, and you might be able to find it. It did come out on Blu-ray, I believe, in 2013. The interesting thing is that for a long time there was only an R-rated cut, which had some of the nasty shit cut out. But when it was released to DVD or to Blu-ray, they accidentally on purpose released the unrated version, and yet they still rated it R. So so
is that the cut we saw?
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you get it, it should be the unrated cut. I don't even know if you can get the one that was with the gore cut out of it anymore. But yeah, so check it out if you like that kind of thing. And as always, if you like our show, please like, share, subscribe, and share with all your friends and family and everybody you know, because it really does help a lot. If you'd like to financially support the show, you can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or you can go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account where you can make a one-time donation. Also, remember, these movie retrospectives right here come out every Friday. We also do 13 o'clock matinee, which is the 3 new movies we saw in the theaters this past week. That comes out every Sunday. And our regular episodes that come out every Tuesday. And we will see you next time. Bye.